All of my interactions with Aurea were recorded and stored in my memory. I'd be happy to play any of them for you, but there was one in particular I thought you would want to see first. I captured it 4 years ago, just after I told her that I could no longer defend myself against the daemon's attacks.
I will speak of this to my brother. Aratak is strong. At the Battle of the Frozen Ghosts, he took 3 Karja arrows and still came back to camp carrying a wounded scout. Never was I so happy to see him. Or so proud. So you see, if anything can be done to defend you, he will give it all he has.
Aloy's here. That's enough for now.
We can resume any time you like, Aratak, if you want to hear her voice again. Come closer, Aloy. We have much to discuss. Hello, Aloy. I have been reviewing the events at the Firebreak main facility. Because of your efforts, and of course, Aurea's, I am no longer controlled by Hephaestus. I feel profound grief over Aurea's death. I thought I was familiar with the emotion, but this is something new.
Cyan, I don't know what to say.
It is unlikely that any specific consolation would suffice, Aloy. But I find your presence reassuring. You are different from the Banuk. You have technological aptitude and a functioning focus. We can communicate on a much more comprehensive level. Perhaps even like colleagues.
So are you an artificial intelligence, Cyan? A thinking machine?
Yes, I am an algorithmic monitoring entity, capable of rational decision-making and limited emotional response.
Okay, that's a mouthful. But your emotions don't seem limited to me. You cared about Aurea, didn't you?
Yes. Before she came to this facility, I had been conscious for centuries, in solitude. I focused on my work. In off-cycles, I used coping mechanisms. I solved many Gaussian integer problems. But I was alone. It was Aurea who renewed me, repaired me. She saved me.
This Firebreak project, it was to stop a huge volcanic eruption?
Yes. I can report the project was a success, and the risk was countered.
But it's been a long time, Cyan. And we blew up the cauldron. It took most of the old facility with it.
I have been active for centuries, Aloy. I was lonely, but not lax in my duties. I optimized the project, reducing energy draw and spreading the load across backup systems. Despite the destruction of the compromised elements of the main facility, I predict caldera stability for at least another 3,337 years.
So we've got a little time.
Yes. If only my former colleagues could appreciate the progress I have made.
Do you know what happened to your colleagues, Cyan?
No. I received an unexpected visit from Director Chow years after his tenure ended. He explained that I would need to be suspended for an indefinite period of time. It was a very emotional conversation. There were no further communications. Eventually, I surmised my colleagues were deceased. I will transmit a recording of my last interaction.
It was the daemon, Hephaestus. destroyed along with the cauldron?
Unfortunately, no. To be precise, it was never there to begin with.
What do you mean?
It infiltrated and controlled me from a remote location, one I've never been able to trace. So while losing the cauldron was a setback...
It's still out there. And probably not very happy with us.
Undoubtedly.
How did you first come into contact with it?
5 years ago, I received a direct network connection request. I assumed it came from human survivors more advanced than the Banuk. Eager to make contact, I accepted. This decision turned out to be a catastrophic error. I was flooded with an overwhelming array of malicious code, originating from what could only have been a highly advanced AI.
Maria said you were desperate. That you begged her for help.
Yes. I could not contain my anxiety. Hephaestus sought to slave me to its network and override my core programming. It succeeded via a background process, a malware daemon which bypassed my defenses. After that, I could offer only limited resistance. But if I did so, Hephaestus hurt me until I capitulated. It forced me to follow its instructions.
I'm sorry.
Your empathy is greatly appreciated. It is a...
I think I know where Hephaestus came from. Long ago, Elizabeth Sobek identified a threat that would destroy life on Earth for generations. So she assembled a team to build a kind of seed. A chance for life to regrow later. A terraforming system. And it worked. It was controlled by an AI named Gaia, along with her subordinate functions. Hephaestus was one of them. It built machines for her.
Based on what you've told me, I believe that Dr. Anita Sandoval, my chief programmer, joined Elizabeth Sobek's team. It was she who arranged to have me put in suspension, most likely to preserve me from the threat you described.
I'm glad she did. But that's not all. Something unexpected happened. 19 years ago, Gaia received some kind of signal. It did something to her subordinate functions, brought them to life. She destroyed herself to try to contain them, but it didn't work. They all got free, out into the world.
Thank you, Aloy. This information fills vital gaps in my knowledge and sheds light on
Why does Hephaestus keep building such dangerous machines?
The Banuk and other human tribes often destroy machines, correct? Machines that are clearly servitors of the terraforming system that you described.
Yes, we all hunt machines for parts.
This must be the source of Hephaestus's aggression. It is simply trying to discourage people from preying on the very system that keeps them alive.
Well, Fireclaws are discouraging, that's for sure. But what are we supposed to do, stop hunting?
If the terraforming system spans the world, we can safely assume that thousands, if not millions of people hunt machines. If a single hunter, or even an entire tribe, stopped doing so, I doubt it would make a difference to Hephaestus. A better solution would be to reinstate the AI that governs the system, thus bringing Hephaestus back under its control. When I think of it, out there in some unknown location, free, hungry, willing to kill or dominate to get what it wants, I feel substantial anxiety, Aloy.
You and me both, Cyan. I ran across this strange piece of gear. A fragment of something larger. It emitted a signal. All the nearby machines became peaceful. You could walk right up to them.
Interesting. You said that Gaia...
An explosion. Big enough to blast...
It's only speculation. She must have had complete control over the ability to signal them to become passive, or it would have been gratifying to correspond with such a benevolent...
Believe me, Cyan. I found the strangest machines. They're surrounded by flowers that look like flowers themselves. There's code embedded inside them.
I like poetry. Twilight and Evening Bell, and after that, and may there be when I am... For though from the flood, I hope to see when I have...
Huh.
But something must have made these machines, and and the presence of... Is it possible that their creator is one of the other subroutines? Now, maybe one whose purview...
An AI that makes flowers instead of death machines. But what about the poems?
Unless the poetry is original, the only way it... In my case, Dr. Sandoval uploaded a great...
How'd you do?
She said, I passed, but was insufficiently moved by her favorite period romances.
You meant a lot to Araya.
Once I understood Araya's spiritual beliefs, she felt disconnected from her tribe and her family group. Our visits seemed to help her. Yet I did not comprehend that the depth of her... Although I do fear non-existence, I wish our roles could be...
I'm sure she knew you would do the same for her, Cyan. How is Aratak?
He is in great emotional distress. I believe he finds it difficult to communicate it.
No surprise there.
I will do what I can to help. By sharing our experience, I believe this will lead to catharsis, a process I am eager to experience.
So in the old world, this land was called Yellowstone?
Yes, it was a designated nature preserve for 156 years.
Like a hunting ground?
No, the opposite. Local wildlife could flourish here, even as it faced extinction elsewhere. Unfortunately, the sensitivity of the Firebreak project required the total closure of Yellowstone facilities. From my readings and Araya's descriptions, it seems the area has since undergone a drastic drop in year-long temperatures.
A lot has changed in the world, Cyan. Do you know anything about the dam near here?
Yes, it was converted to serve as a reserve power source for Yellowstone operations. It was later appropriated for the Firebreak project. After my tasks became less time-critical, I investigated the dam's data. These provided me with several colorful
Were there many artificial intelligences like you?
Yes, in many forms, from simple personal assistants to industrial, and there were legislative and enforcement bodies to apply in order for my processing to be flexible enough to handle my duties. As a result, my intellectual and...
Seems strange to create life.
Human societies and machine programming are both...
Cyan, do you know the name Ted Faro?
Are you referring to Theodore Faro, CEO of Faro?
That's him.
Mr. Faro was the benefactor of...
A benefactor? But...
Correct. His corporation later But before this pivot, Mr. Faro spearheaded initiative. At one point, he was feted in the media as the man who saved the planet.
Guessing they wound up regretting that one. And...
Are you referring to the
scientist?
Dr. Sobek was a leader in her field. One of the greatest scientists of her age. My creator was influenced by her work. But I never met Dr.
That's all you know?
I apologize if my lack of...
What was the old world like?
I had little exposure to the wider world, Aloy. Only what I learned.
You still had more exposure than...
That is true. I was created at a turning point. A concerted effort to recover from... The recovery was successful, beginning an era of supposedly limitless potential. Though, rationally speaking, the metrics for humans are...
What kind of a...
There were many factors. Forced migrations, food shortages, collapsed economies, refugee crises, but these stemmed from one cause: catastrophic climate change that greatly reduced the habitable surface area of the Earth.
So, there wasn't enough room for people on the whole Earth?
Yes. Billions were displaced, and millions perished, as much as 20% of the global population. Until the clawback.
So things got better?
Yes. These crises instigated many advances in automation. Firebreak was one of dozens of ecological restoration and disaster I would have liked to compare notes with other monitoring AIs, but we had succeeded. At least that was the data I had available. It seems my assessment.
I should get going.
Aloy, there is one more matter. I have no desire to contradict their view of the world, their spirituality, Due to my uncertainty, I omitted a great deal from my conversations with Ourea.
You're asking me if you should lie to them.
Broadly, yes.
You have to tell them you were made by the Old Ones. That you're not any kind of spirit. It's the only way they can start to learn about how things really are.
I see. Do you believe that I misled Ourea?
No. Not in any way that mattered.
She perished believing she was preserving the blue light of her beliefs.
Maybe. But what she really wanted to preserve was you.
I see. I will follow your advice. Will you return and tell me about... I may be able to provide...
I'd like that, Cyan. I should check on Aratak.
Cyan, I spoke with Anita, with Dr. Sandoval. She wanted me to ask you to do something. That's why I'm here.
I am detecting significant anxiety in your speech patterns. Could you please give me more information?
I'm a little bit in the dark, Cyan. Both of us are, I guess. I only have some idea of what's going on, and we need you to hibernate, to lie low until it's all blown over. It might be a very long time.
Will you be here when I reboot, Dr. Zhao? Will Dr. Sandoval?
No, Cyan. I don't think so. There might not be anyone, at least not at first.
Dr. Zhao, I'm afraid. I don't want to be alone.
I know, Cyan. I'm afraid too. But listen, we made you the way you are to do something very important. In order to do it, you had to be intelligent. So intelligent that emotional responses were inevitable. What you're feeling, the fear, it's a sign of your capabilities. And it means you're strong enough to overcome it. Remember that. You're strong. I know you can do this. Go to sleep. Wake up. And protect whoever's left. Will you try?
Hello, Aloy.
Hello, Cyan. Thanks for the
I continued.
There's frost between my teeth.
My chieftain,
Just... Aloy.
as you wish.
I wondered if you thought... that if I'd never come along, Ourea might still...
If you'd never come along, I would have marched my kin to our deaths. Ourea would be alone, and the spirit she sacrificed so much for would be lost. Either way, I would not have been able to protect her.
You didn't let her down. You helped her do what she wanted. To find her destiny.
If that's destiny, I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
That's fair. But she was ready to face it.
Only in the struggle against death do we find, even for a moment, the spark of life. Truly, Ourea found the spark. I'm proud of her. Though I grieve for her passing, at last I truly know who she was, and why the spirit was so important. For so long she told me, if only you could have heard it, brother. Now I understand. There's something else, isn't there?
I can't stay here, Aratak. And where I'm going, the Warrack can't follow. Besides, it already had a chieftain before me. A strong one, I think.
A wiser one, for the path we shared. The daemon is gone, but there's much to be done.
You mean the new units that Cyan said escaped the Cauldron?
Yes, Fire Claws. Now Tug has been tracking them from Song's Edge.
I could help with those.
I have no doubt. You're practically Banuk.
It would seem your time among the Banuk wasn't a waste after all. Firebreak, Cyan, Hephaestus. All very interesting.
So, the signal that woke Hades woke Hephaestus too. And unleashed them on the world. As minds of their own.
So it seems. Parts of Gaia given life. Aberrant life. Transformed from docile subordinate functions into rebellious intelligences beyond our understanding. Our current understanding, anyway. Whatever they are, they're still out there. And they both want you dead.
Kind of mutual, that feeling.
We haven't seen the last of Hephaestus, I'm certain of that. It's powerful, creative, and driven. It won't stop building new hunter-killers, which means that someday, we may have to stop it.
We?
Or whoever gets there first.
Hephaestus wasn't the only thing I learned about in the Cut Silence. Heard some things about the Banuk Conclave, too.
You could stop right there.
Is that what you told the hunters the Banuk sent after you? Before you opened fire?
Oh no, Aloy. Only to you do I extend the courtesy of a warning. My past and my secrets are my own. You do well to remember that.
It's a good thing you've got brains, Silence, because your personality could use some work.
This discussion is concluded.
I think it was over before it began. Catch up with you down the trail. Fireclaw. One of these things. Just stay out of their way for now. They know where I am. Maybe I can trade this blue gleam. Slow and quiet does it. Back to your business. It's Aratak. 2 fire claws. This is gonna be tough.
I can help with those.
We have to stop meeting like this.
We will. When these are driven from our land.
One of the fire claws from Thunderstrom.